So, I've been thinking a lot lately about pain, specifically what it does to us, how it affects us, and why it seems that it can either make us stronger or break us. There's a quote by C.S. Lewis that goes like this: "We live in a world starved for compassion. It is a hard, unfeeling world. But there is no such thing as bad. There is only that which we resist. There is no such thing as evil. There is only that which we fight." And I think that he was trying to say that when we get hurt, when we suffer, it doesn't mean that we become broken. That's just one interpretation of it. I see it more as when things go wrong, and when we suffer from it, it really depends on us how we deal with it. For example, some people will use their pain and their anger and their sadness to fuel them. They'll keep pushing themselves to be better, to do better, so that they never have to feel that way again. Other people, though, that same pain and anger and sadness will consume them. And I think it's because they don't know how to process it or deal with it. So it ends up destroying them rather than making them stronger. I don't know if you've ever heard of the concept of post-traumatic growth. This is a positive psychological response some people can have after experiencing a significant negative event. In 2000, researchers Tedeschi and Calhoun described it as the positive psychological changes as a result of struggling with highly challenging and adverse experiences. They found that many people who experienced extremely traumatic events, including combat, violence, serious illness, or the death of a loved one, reported an increase in personal strength, a new appreciation for life, a sense of gratitude, a greater sense of purpose, and closer relationships afterwards. It's like some people are able to turn the negative into something positive and others can't. When you think about it, it makes sense. How could something so terrible actually end up being good for you? Well, because our minds are capable of perceiving things in different ways. The exact same event can be perceived in completely different ways by two different people. One person might see it as a catastrophe, a total disaster, while the other sees it as a blessing in disguise. One person sees it as a curse, while the other sees it as a gift. One person sees it as tragic and unfortunate, while the other sees it as a lucky break. A researcher named Richard Davidson did a study where he had two groups of people read the same story. The only difference between the two groups was that one group was told it was a story of a person who suffered from severe abuse during childhood, and the other group was told that the same story was about a person who grew up in a loving and caring household. After reading the story, participants were asked to describe what they thought happened next. Those who were told it was about a person who grew up in a harsh environment imagined the character getting married and having children, continuing the cycle of abuse. Whereas those who were told that the character grew up in a loving home saw the character breaking the cycle and becoming a caring parent. So the exact same scenario played out differently in each person's mind based on how they chose to perceive it. This is important to understand because we all go through things in life. We all experience negativity and struggle. But the difference between those who come out of it stronger and those who do aren't comes down to how we choose to interpret what happens to us. Let's take, for example, somebody who was bullied growing up. On the surface, it sounds terrible. You can imagine all the horrible things that might have happened, and obviously nobody should ever have to go through that. Let's also assume that both people felt pain, that both people were hurt emotionally by what went on. Okay, now let's think about how they got treated after the bullying stopped. In one scenario, let's say the parents of the victim found out and confronted the bullies and their parents. They felt angry and protective. They didn't want their kid to feel like that ever again, so they tried to shield them from any chance of that happening by not letting them play with anybody else or go anywhere where they might be judged or criticized. Now, do you think this person is going to grow up with low self-esteem, or do you think they're going to grow up confident and strong? What about the other scenario? What if instead of confronting the bullies, the parent said, "You know what, this is a great opportunity for your child to learn how to overcome adversity. This is a chance for them to learn how to persevere." Now, do you think this person is going to grow up with low self-esteem, or do you think they're going to grow up confident and strong? Both scenarios were about being bullied. Both scenarios involved dealing with the aftermath of it. But depending on how the parents reacted, their child ends up reacting differently, feeling differently, and as a result, they become different people. So, if everything is interpreted differently by each person, then everything means whatever we choose to make it mean. If we choose to look at our pain and our struggles and our problems as opportunities to grow and become stronger, then that's what we're going to get out of it. If we choose to look at them as burdens that are too heavy for us to carry, then that's what we're going to get out of it. There's a Buddhist proverb that goes like this: when the mind is free from attachment, one finds the complete meaning of life within oneself. As humans, we have the ability to interpret things however we want. We can label things as positive or negative, good or bad, fortunate or unfortunate, happy or sad, depending on how we want to view them. So when something bad happens to us, when we suffer, we can either see it as a terrible misfortune, or we can see it as a good thing that happened to us. It's us all in how we tell ourselves the story of what happened to us and how we choose to interpret it. Like, let's say you got rejected by the person you like. If you choose to look at that situation as a terrible misfortune, you might start to believe that you're not good enough, or that you're not attractive enough, or that you do undeserve to be loved. And then that belief ends up shaping your reality, because now every time you meet somebody new, you're looking for signs that they aren't like you, or that they aren't find you attractive, or that they aren't want to be around you anymore. And every time you meet somebody new, you start to imagine what would happen if they rejected you. You start to feel all those old feelings coming back up. And so your reality becomes shaped by that belief. On the other hand, let's say you choose to see that situation as a fortunate thing that happened to you. Maybe you say to yourself, "You know what? I dodged a bullet." That person wasn't right for me anyway, and I'm going to use this time now to focus on myself and to try and become the best version of myself possible. And then that belief ends up shaping your reality, because now when you meet somebody new, you're more confident, you're more comfortable being yourself and showing people who you are, because you know that if they do unlike you for who you are, then it's their loss. And so the difference between these two beliefs, the difference between seeing something as good or bad, fortunate or unfortunate, happy or sad, strong or weak, healthy or sick, it's all in how we choose to label it. It's all in how we choose to tell ourselves the story of what happened to us and why it happened to us. Now, I'm not saying that one belief is better than the other. I'm not saying that one story is better than the other. I'm just saying that we have the power to choose what story we want to tell ourselves. We have the power to choose how we want to interpret our experiences. We have the power to choose how we respond to situations. And so the next time something bad happens to you, the next time you suffer, ask yourself, is this a terrible misfortune, or is this a fortunate event? Is this something that happened to me, or is this something that I chose? Because when we realize that we're the ones who choose, that's when we start to become stronger. That's when we start to become more resilient. That's when we stop blaming other people and circumstances for our unhappiness, and we take responsibility for creating our own happiness. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you liked this video, please click the like button. It really helps me out. Thank you.